friend of mine who's on some committee that we were having dinner one night, and he told me he's so excited about it because he's going to fix the school system, and we have to get rid of these charters. And he didn't know that I had worked with charters, and I looked at him. I said, why do you say that? And he says, well, because they take money away from the public schools. So we then had a debate over dinner, and I think we got it worked out.
I'm sure that was fun.
It was fun. I think we got it worked out. But what do you say to people when they say that money to charters is taking funding away from public schools?
I would say that the dollars do not belong to the schools, ever. The dollars belong to the children. The dollars are publicly provided per child in order to provide high quality education to that child, and the parents might choose that not to send their kid to a lower performing school. They might choose to send their kid to a higher performing public school through accessing charter schools, and those dollars were always intended for the child, not intended for any particular neighborhood, any particular set of adults. And so I reject the premise, I guess, that it's taking dollars from traditional public schools. I think the other thing that's really challenging for me about that argument, and someone made it to me just the other day, Jim, is I was a Chicago public school student in the 80s, and I was lucky enough to go to a really terrific Chicago public school, like a lot of kids who look like me. We're lucky enough to go to terrific Chicago public schools, and a lot of kids who don't look like me were lucky enough to go to terrific Chicago public schools. But there were a lot of kids in the 80s who didn't go to terrific public schools, and the idea that the introduction of choice into the system is the problem, and that's what's hurt public education. It harkens back to some golden days before there were charter schools, before kind of, these resources were diverted. And I think it's misremembering history. There were the same inequalities, there were the same consistent school failures, in fact worse, before charter schools came along. The systems have improved across the board since charter schools came along. So there's no era when all of the traditional public schools were just providing these incredible educations to every kid, including in low-income communities, and then the charter schools came by and ruined it. There was endemic school failure across a lot of urban systems and really persistent school failure in the city of Chicago, and that's part of what charter schools were solving for in the first place. So it didn't seem to be working all that well when charter schools weren't drawing resources either.